everyone, welcome to the course Design Practice. I am Sanjay Kumar, course TA for this course, and on behalf of Professor Shantanu Bhattacharya, I will taking few lecture modules for this course. In the past week, you have already learned concurrent engineering in detail, and in the present module 26 and 27, I will discuss a new topic called material selection in engineering design. Okay, this topic is very important topic for the design purpose. For example, if you want to convert your idea into your practical product, then what you will do? You will require a material to fabricate it. Okay. So, you know that in universe we have a variety of materials are available. So, to choose a appropriate material for your particular product, there are some process is needed. So, in this module you will learn these things. So, in this kind of things we will discuss in our coming module. Okay. And structure of this module is following. First we will study some engineering materials and properties, then their classification of some materials, then again general properties of materials. Then since in this module we will focus only on mechanical aspect of designing, so we will study some in brief mechanical properties such for example stress strain diagram and etc. And after that we will study material selection process. Okay. Now, material classification. Okay. In this we know that there are a variety of materials available in our universe, and these are broadly classified in these groups: metals, polymers, ceramics, glasses, elastomers, hybrids. Okay. Metals are generally in crystalline in nature, and the atoms of the metals are held together by metallic bonding. These metals are very strong and hard. And some materials are ductile, some materials are very brittle in nature, and we will study these things in detail in next slide. Okay. Now, ceramics are also, it may be crystalline or non crystalline. And here molecules are bonded with ionic or covalent bond. Okay. Ceramics are very higher strength, possess very higher strength, while in compression. Okay. Ceramics are generally brittle in nature. So, when you will apply a tension in these metals, so there will be a it will fracture immediately. In comparison to metal, a fracture will take place in a very earlier time. So, and these materials are electrically insulate, chemical, inert, etc. Polymers, it is it is made with many repeating mers to form very large molecule. And molecules are bonded with covalent bonding. Molecules and several elements are present in polymers. such as oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, etc. Polymers are generally inductile in nature. And now elastomer. Elastomer is also in a, it's a polymer with viscoelasticity. Elastomers are generally very weak. Their intermolecular forces are very weak. Elastomers, you can take example of rubber. For metals, we have a variety of metals available in our universe, such as aluminum, iron, bronze, etc. Now, materials are discovered, a variety of materials are discovered with a time. Okay. So, we can see from in this table that a variety of materials, gold, copper, bronze, iron, and their advent time is mentioned here. So, in Stone Age, that is the 10,000 BC, and here some materials were discovered, that was the ceramic, wood, skin, fibers, woods and stone were used as a for their armory. And in a bronze age, bronze area, that is the time period between 4000 to 1000 BC. Here bronze were discovered. In Iron Age lies between 1000 to 1620 BC, and here you can say irons, cast iron and some natural glue from the tree was discovered. And in cast iron was was dominant in 1620s, and we but you can see from this plot that these materials, the use of these materials continuously decreased with the time, and as well as the new materials was discovered at a span of time. Okay. See, we can see that in 1850 steel was discovered. Steel, it is another form of iron, purified form you can say. Now, after that, from the 1940s, 60s, now people approaches towards the lighter alloy, hybrid alloy. Hybrid alloy, it consists of two or more materials. These materials are light, the main properties of these materials are light in weight, and higher strength. And from the past few decades, we can see that the use of polymer based materials has increased enormously, as well as composites and ceramics. Okay. But a comparison with metals, the polymer, the use of increased at higher pace. Okay. From this chart we can see that there are a lot of materials are available to design any component of a system, or or you want to or a machine, something like that. So we have a variety of choice. So in these materials, each material have a some specific property, some specific quality, and some disadvantages also. But to choose a proper material from this chart, it is a very difficult for a design engineer to which material will be suitable for our product. Okay. So criteria 1, we can choose or select material on the basis of properties of materials. Okay. What are the properties? They are, each material possess physical properties, chemical properties, thermal, mechanical, electrical, optical properties, etc. Okay. So physical property. First we will discuss physical properties of a material. Physical properties describes the state of material which is observable or measurable. You can check physical property of any material by your naked eye. Density, melting point, boiling point, etc. are the some of the commonly known physical property. Suppose that density. What is the density? Density of any material can be defined as mass per unit volume. Okay. And amount of the mass content by unit volume of the material. If any material has a, suppose that iron has a higher density than aluminum, it means if you fabricate something using iron, that weight will be higher. So suppose that if you take a constraint that material machine part should be lighter in weight, so you will have to choose very intelligently which material will be suitable for your product. Okay. Melting point. Melting point is the temperature at which the material changes its state from solid to liquid. Okay. For example, iron has a melting point of about 15-30 degrees Celsius. Okay. While aluminum has a melting point around 660 degrees Celsius. So you can see that at 660 degrees Celsius, aluminum will get melted away. At 6 degrees Celsius, while at 660 degrees Celsius, iron will be present in solid form. Okay. Boiling point is the temperature at which the material changes its states from liquid to gaseous. So boiling point, you know, everybody knows that boiling point of water, that is the 100 degrees Celsius. It means at 100 degrees Celsius, liquid will start boiling, and there will be it will start converting into gaseous media. These are the main predominant physical property of any material: density, melting point, boiling point, etc. Now we will talk about thermal property. Each material has thermal property. What is the thermal property? It's a thermal property means transfer of heat through media, that is the conduction. It can be, and heat transfer can take place using conduction, convection, radiation. In conduction, what happens? Suppose that you have a one metal slab of thickness x, okay, and at this point, suppose that here is a one boiler, and it emits heat, and temperature at this place is T1, and so what happens, one that temperature gets, that when heat will get transferred through this slab, so at in this way, and there will be a temperature of T2. So if you want to calculate the what will be the heat exact amount of heat transfer, then what you it is calculated using Fourier's law of heat conduction, that is the Q is equal to K into A into dt by dx, okay, where K is the thermal conductivity, A is the area of the slab, and delta T change in temperature, and dx is the thickness. Okay. Thermal conductivity. Thermal conductivity is a property of material, and it defines as a rate at which the heat is conducted through a solid at steady state. Steady state means time at time constant. Time will be constant at steady state. Okay. And another property is the in thermal property of any material is the specific heat, and specific heat of a material is defined as the quantity of heat energy required to increase the temperature of a unit mass of the material by 1 degree. Means the amount how much energy is required to increase, suppose that one, this is your part, one sample is there at a temperature 10 degrees Celsius, and if you are heating this sample and temperature gets increased to 11 degrees Celsius. So, there is a increase in 1 degree Celsius. So, how much heat is required to increase the temperature of sample to the 11 degree Celsius, means one difference is net difference is 1 degree Celsius. So, that amount is the specific heat. Another property is the third property is thermal diffusivity, and thermal diffusivity it is the measures the rate of transfer of heat of a material from the hot side to the cold side. It means it signifies the any material how fast it transfer the heat. And it can be calculated as thermal diffusivity is signified as alpha. Alpha is equal to K by rho C, where K is the thermal conductivity and C is your specific heat of material, and rho is the density of the material. So, if you know density of material, specific heat and thermal conductivity, then you can easily calculate the thermal diffusivity of that particular material. This table shows the some common thermal properties of selected materials, and you can see for metals such like for example aluminum, the specific heat is 0.21, for cast iron it is 0.11, copper 0.092 kilo Kelvin per gram into Kelvin. Thermal conductivity, if you see, the aluminum is 0.22 joule per second mm, for cast iron 0.06, for zinc 0.112. So in comparison, what you are getting, aluminum, thermal conductivity of aluminum is higher than thermal conductivity of cast iron. Also, thermal conductivity of copper is higher than these two. So it means will conduct heat at faster rate as compared to aluminum and cast iron. Some another ceramic, you can say alumina, 0.029. For polymers are very poor in heat conducting. These are the very now some other properties of material is that optical property. And optical property, it depends on wavelength and types of material. Another parameter which can affect the optical property is the incidence angle. Suppose that here is your one material and light is coming like this, that is the theta I. Theta is the angle of incidence that is made through the perpendicular to the your material, and it's get reflected, that is the reflection, and that is the transmission incidence. Okay. So algebraically incident intensity I plus IR plus IT will be 1. Some materials are very reflective in nature, some materials are very poor possess very poor reflection. So these properties are important if you want to design, suppose that microscope, for example microscopic lens. So these optical property will play predominant role, but in this module we will focus only on our mechanical part, mechanical properties. Okay. So mechanical property, this describes the behavior of material in terms of deformation and resistance to deformation under specific mechanical loading condition. Okay. And they are the various properties of comes under mechanical property, that is the strength, yield strength, ultimate tensile strength, fracture strength, ductility, Young's modulus, Poisson ratio, hardness. We will study in detail in these things in coming slide. Okay. First we will start from the stress strain diagram. Okay. Here what we are doing, we take one bar, solid bar of length L, okay, L naught, sorry, initial length is L naught, and an axial force F is applied on both side, okay, and there is a, that is the called tensile loading. tensile load is applied on both sides axially, and what happens after some times when load is applied, the material which stretched axial and length is increased. You can say that there is a increase in length due to the tensile load. Okay. And for that, and corresponding changes in displacement by using your load, one plot is generated in machine, that is the tensile machine. Here you can see that they are the various points in this plot A, B, Y, C, D, E, and each point has some significance. Okay. So, we will discuss point by point. Generally, stress has a unit of Newton per meter square, and strain and versus strain. Okay. Here OA, that is called proportionality limit, means when you will apply a load on a bar so the length will increase axially, but after stop, suppose that after removing of this load F, so what will happen, again this distance, it is just like a spring in nature, this deflection will again bar will come into its original position, it will return back. Okay, up to that point OA, and this point follows the Hooke's law, it is a linear in nature. It means suppose that if you are applying a load and deflection elongation takes place, so and up to this point, okay, and this point is somewhere between before the point A, and after stop applying the load, what will happen, the load will follow the same path and it will come sit at origin. Okay, is origin O dash, so O, suppose that it will O and this point is O dash, so it will come from O dash to O, that is the proportionality limit. And for B, up to point B, that is the elastic limit, means after removal of load, applied load, what will happen, it will again material length of material will come to its original position but it will not follow Hooke's law. Okay. So, up to this point B, these are the elastic region. Okay. So, if you are applying a load on any material, this diagram is for mild steel. Every material will have a different kind of stress strain diagram. For in case of mild steel, you suppose that if you are applying a load somewhere up to somewhere this one, so what will happen, after removal of load, material will come into its original position. Okay. So, that is the elastic region. So, there is another point that is called Y. Y, the location of Y can be traced from that, like that. You just take a 0.2% distance, suppose that this is the strain stress and parallel to OA, and wherever it will intersect, that point is the yield point. Okay. So, this is 0.2% of the strain, and yield strength can be defined as stress at which material begins to plastically deform. It means from there that is called Y is the upper yield point and C is the lower yield point, and from C we can see that the stress value is seen to be rise again from point C here by and from material is. So, actually what happens from beyond C, their material is getting strain hardened. This region it means load beyond Y, elongation occurs at much faster rate. You can see that there is a small change in strain, the value of stress is very high. Okay. Suppose that you are taking this much strain here in from Y to D region, in Y to D region, in a small deflection elongation, the change in stress is high. So, that means elongation occurs at very much faster rate, and after reaching point D, what happens? Making the shape of the bar gets start changing like that. You can say that necking takes place. Necking formation starts from point D, and this point is called ultimate tensile strength. It can be defined as the proper strength of any material up to which the material can sustain their shape in a plastic deformation. Okay. And if you are continuously elongation is you are applying load, then what will happen? The stress sudden steep fall in stress beyond point D means necking will take place and there is cross sectional area at place where fracture will take place, it gets reduced, and so that up to at point E fracture will take place. Okay. So, main motto of this study stress strain diagram is that what suppose that if you want to design something and for a suppose that you are making a beam for a bridge, okay. So, you will have to consider each material's ultimate tensile ultimate strength, so that up to which that material can sustain itself. Otherwise, what will happen if you will suppose that if you have chosen something material which can't sustain much load, so that what will happen? Fracture will take place. Okay. So, there is another term which comes in stress strain diagram, that is called engineering stress strain and true stress strain. There is a difference between engineering stress strain and true stress strain. Okay. First, engineering stress strain. First I will discuss engineering stress strain. Actually what happens during calculation of stress is what? Engineering stress can be defined as force that is applied in axial direction to the cross sectional area of the beam. Here that is the cross sectional area of is A naught and force is F. So engineering stress is, that is the A naught is original cross sectional area before applied any load, and engineering strain is defined as change in length due to applied load divided by original length. So what is the change in length? Suppose that first one bar length is L naught and after applied load length for particular at a particular load length is L. So change in length will be L naught minus L naught divided by L naught. This is the L naught minus 1, where L is equal to length at any point during the elongation. So Hooke's law of linearity for up to the power for point OA, what will happen? Stress is directly proportional to strain and E to E, where E is the modulus of elasticity. Actually, it is a measure of the inherent stiffness of material. Now we will study true stress strain relation. What is the true stress? It is the ratio of force per unit area, that is the actual area, means for a particular load F, length is increased to L and cross sectional area is changed to A. Okay. So that is sigma is equal to F by A. A is the actual area at particular load, and true strain is equal to, since deformation elongation takes place continuously on applying of load, so we can write that using same thing, change in length divided by original length. So suppose that first initial length was L naught and final length is L at particular load, and change in length what is dl, and initial, and if you will solve log L by L naught. So, if we substitute the value of L naught from here, so what will happen? 1 plus E. This is the relation between true strain versus an engineering strain. Means true strain is equal to ln 1 plus engineering strain. Similarly, we can derive an expression for true stress versus engineering stress. Okay. Now, I will discuss some more mechanical properties like ductility or ductility, that is the ability of a material to plastically deform without failure. Okay. And if you want to quantify ductility, then you will have to measure either percentage elongation or area reduction. What is the percentage elongation? It is the ratio of difference between final length minus L naught divided by L naught, where LF is equal to length of specimen at fracture. What happens? Initial length is L naught. So, after fracture, LF. After fracture, just join both part and measure the length of actual length of that specimen. So, that is the length of specimen at fracture. So, from here this formula you can calculate the percentage elongation of that specimen. Another is area reduction. Again, this is initial cross sectional area minus cross sectional area of specimen after fracture divided by original cross sectional area. So, first suppose that cross sectional area was A naught and now cross sectional area is AF. So, after measuring the cross sectional area of the actual cross sectional area after fracture of that specimen, you can calculate area reduction. So, these both terms defines the ductility of any material. Now, other property is hardness of the material. Hardness, it is the resistance of material against abrasion or indentation. Generally, hard rock well and Brinell test are used for hardness testing. Now the toughness. It measures the resistance of a material to the propagation of a crack. Now, these are the some mechanical properties which are very important during the consideration of selection of material. Now, we will do some problem solving example. Okay, here you can see that what problem statement is that a tensile test uses a test specimen that has a gauge length of 50 mm and an area of 20 mm square, that is the cross sectional area. During the test, the specimen yields under a load of 98,000 Newton. The corresponding gauge length is equal to 50.23 mm. This is the 0.2% yield point. Okay. The maximum load is 168,000 Newton, that is reached at gauge length of 64.2 mm. So, determine yield strength, modulus of elasticity and tensile strength. So, what are the things given? Given that gauge length of 50 mm, L naught is equal to 50 mm, A naught is equal to 200 mm square, yield Y is equal to means specimen yields under a load of 98,000 Newton. So, if you want to calculate yield strength, what is this yielding correspond load correspond to yielding point, that is the 98,000 Newton, and the cross sectional area of the specimen is 200 mm square. So, that will be 490 megapascal or is equal to Newton, either you can write Newton per mm square. Okay. Now, modulus of elasticity. Modulus of elasticity we can calculate by Hooke's law. What it states? Yield strength Y is equal to Young's modulus into strain. This one. So, E is equal to Y by E. So, what is the strain? So, first we will see original gauge length was 50 mm, corresponding gauge length is 50.23 mm, and there is a 0.2% yield point. Earlier I had discussed for yield point there is a one parallel line is calculated. So, 0.2%, that is the yield point. .2%. Okay. So, if you calculate this strain, the change in length will be 50.23 minus 50 and original length. So, in this case original, what will be original length? Actually we omitted this that amount of strain for we take 0.2% strain for locating the yield point. So we'll have to take consider of that thing. So 50 minus 0.0022%. Okay, on calculating that will be 0.0026. Okay, now Young's modulus E will be, yield strength is 490 and strain is 0.0026. That will be equal to 188.5 into 10 to the power 3 megapascal. Now we will calculate tensile strength. So tensile strength of any material, that is equal to load corresponds to ultimate point divided by area of a specimen. That will be equal to area of specimen is 200 840 megapascal. That is the tensile strength. Okay. In next problem, again what saying, in previous problem, the determine the percent elongation if the specimen neck to an area 92 mm square, determine the percent reduction in area. So we will use same data, 50 mm gauge length, cross sectional area 200 mm square, and on basis of that we will calculate percentage elongation. And percentage elongation was the length at fracture, after fracture, minus initial gauge length divided by L naught. Here and up to maximum 64.2 mm, not fracture, you can say ultimate strength 64.2 given minus 50 divided by 50, that is equal to means this material can elongate 28.4% without any failure. Area reduction. Again initial cross section area minus area at actual cross sectional area minus divided by A naught, that is equal to, it was earlier 200 minus specified neck to and neck 92 means 92 divided by 200, that is equal to 0.54. in percentage you can write 54%. Till now you have already learned the various properties, for example mechanical properties, physical property, electrical properties, thermal properties, as well as optical properties. Okay, these properties are very useful while selection of material in your design purpose. Okay, now I am closing this module 26 and 27, and the in coming next module I will discuss about what are the steps involved in the selection of a material. Okay, thank you very much.